talk about trends that are considered outdated, y'all. Let's just preface this. Trends is just such a buzzword nowadays, and I think it's just a fun way of looking at how fashion is evolving into different formats. I think it's just interesting to talk about it because at the end of the day, fashion is a very creative and expressive hobby. I think there's so many different ways that people really integrate with fashion, and I think it's just interesting to see all these different shifts. And I just kind of wanted to talk about it. I just kept hearing things that are like outdated for 2025, and I kind of wanted to go over them. Some of these I'm like, personally I would wear, and then some of them are things that I can understand and see why they might think so. But at the end of the day, y'all, we all know that online fashion is completely different than real life fashion. Even me living in LA, the amount of people that I see overly like styled are very slim. Anyways, let's talk about these trends, and if you participate in them, that's all fine and dandy, baby. I participate in some of these too. Just wear what you want at the end of the day. Let's get into this, baby. This video was inspired by Phoebe. Y'all, if you're not following Phoebe, I don't know what y'all doing. Appreciate her discourse. I think that's the fun thing about fashion. Discussions are very imperative in all different platforms. I mean, I think these are things that I sit down and talk to my friends over like drinks or a coffee or just hanging out. We're talking about different fashion things related, just all these different topics. So especially the recent changes of like, first of all, Jonathan Anderson leaving Loewe to go to Dior, but also just like all these different things that are happening in the fashion world. And I think it's really intriguing. Here are trends that are considered outdated or what you can say would age like milk. For me, I drink dairy-free milk, so does it age the same? I don't know. But sorry, I just had to make that comment. I mean, I think milk ages in general badly, but it doesn't curdle the same way that I would assume regular milk does. Okay, first one I want to talk about is balloon like skirts. These were booming. They have been booming. They're still booming because it's a trend that I feel like it was very specific, and I think things like that, when they're like multi-layered aesthetics into one specific piece, I think that's what makes it, I would say, quicker out of the door. Not saying that these pieces can become timeless, because I feel like the timeless and non-timeless is just so personalized to you. These were really prominent in the 80s, and then it had like this modernization into the late 2020s. Oh my god, that is so weird to say. There's a specific type of way of styling these skirts that I think can also be a little bit more discouraging. The way that I've seen this kind of skirt is usually just a t-shirt and the skirt, maybe use it as like a skirt over pants, but other than that, I have not really seen a different way of this specific skirt being styled. Knowing me, I would put that skirt as a top. They're just gonna age like milk. Coincidentally, something that will be close to that is just bloomers. Both silhouettes of bloomers, like bloomer shorts and bloomer pants. I'm a sucker for the bloomer pants. You know this, if you want to call it outdated, because I think they originally came out in what, 18th century at least? Those have been around. Obviously styled back then, it was more, they're undergarments and they're very comfortable. So I understand why back in the day they were wearing them as undergarments. Airflow on those are magnifique. I feel like the way they have been styled now into just like, you know, more casual wear, I just don't see it kind of continuing into the next couple years. And it's not like we can predict what's going to be like, so how your style is going to be in the next 5 years. And that's something that I preface as well. But I think there's a way of being more aware and mindful of where you want most of your style to stay in. I just think bloomers are just a silhouette that maybe isn't gonna continue to shift. But I don't know, because if they've been in the 14th century or plus, pretty much they can stand the test of time. Let's talk about sheer. I am actually wearing a sheer top right now, and I think the elements of sheer is always going to be around. It's kind of like lace. There's always going to be lace. There's always going to be crochet. There's always going to be knit. But I think the way that sheer was really styled, so the ones that I'm talking about is the sheer head to toe dressing, where you kind of have to wear specific undergarments, or you don't. No judgment here, whatever you feel comfortable with. But I think that was the thing too. It's just that there was so much sheerness going on that I think it's just not as long lasting in people's wardrobes. I do think though that there is a way of styling sheer pieces. There's so many cool and interesting ways of layering it in a lot of styles and pieces. Like an example, my shirt right here, you can see that the sleeves are sheer, so is the bottom, but then you have like this crocheted detailing on the chest. So I think that sheer in itself as a material, as a style and silhouette will still be here, but what I think will age quicker is just like sheer head to toe like dresses or styling, and I love it for a good sexy moment. Like, I'm still down. Before we continue, let's talk about today's sponsor, which is Squarespace. I'm genuinely so stoked that I get to work with Squarespace again because they are the platform I'm using to create a website for myself. I wasn't sure on how to start creating a website, and I appreciate that Squarespace has a variety of pre-made templates, whether that be showcasing your offerings with a professional website, grow your brand, and get paid. You get it all done in one place. The navigational tool makes it simple to switch up the font, add images, and even change the background colors of your website. You can even do a password protection on your website, whether that is because you have your website under construction or you have certain clientele that you only want them to access. If you're interested in opening an e-commerce site, you can buy and print USPS shipping labels for all your orders directly from Squarespace. Furthermore, they provide all sale analytics and variety of different data and all the demographics you will need. Head to squarespace.com/Karina Gomez to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you, Squarespace, for sponsoring this portion of the video. And now let's get back to it. Y'all, the age of crop tops, I feel like is something that we kind of all had a feeling was going to just not age well. It's also just been a shift in just silhouette of pants, so just low rise becoming more popular. I think people are just more interested in wearing longer tops with their low rise pants. We'll have to agree, I feel like even with a crop top, I just always felt like uncomfortable because I think I always kind of kept like trying to put it down, even though I would wear like high-waisted pants. Don't get me wrong, I do love a good midriff, but I think it wasn't always the case. And so especially now that I feel like most of my jeans for me that I enjoy is mid-rise. I feel like with mid-rise I can easily lower it down and be more of a low rise if I wanted to, but long enough that it's kind of giving kind of the high rise, which I think if you do have crop tops for me that aren't mini crop tops, more like a little bit longer than crop tops, I still feel like mid-rise works really well. I think the shift in silhouettes that people are wearing, which is heading to more of a low mid-rise style, is a reason why I think people are more gravitating towards just not cropped blouses. But I still think like even if you have a top that is a bit longer, I still like when you tuck in a shirt into like high-waisted pants. I still feel like we wear crop tops in athleisure wear that I've noticed. So it's not like I think crop tops are like the end all be all, but I guess when you're gonna see all the fashion girlies not wearing are probably not gonna be wearing crop tops, which is very interesting discourse, I will say. So is a baby tee considered a crop top? I was just curious. Or is baby tees more just like the top just fits more fitted, like the t-shirt is more fitted? It's not really that it is like cropped. Another trend that I think will age like anti-dairy milk would be mesh or like these sneaker flats. First of all, I'm a sneaker lover. I do think like we've been seeing such a big emphasis on just flats in general. Whether the silhouette of sneakers are just particularly flat, I think of the Samba, the Onitsuka Tigers, or even the Puma Speed Cats. When you start mixing too many aesthetics in one particular silhouette, I think that's what ends up aging quicker than just having like a simple, black flat, if you like it square toe, round toe, or with like a heel or no heel. When you start adding like, for example, these like Puma ballerina style flats, which I think they just released recently, I would categorize more of that as like a statement piece. Another one that I really think about is like those Gani flats. Like there was just so much going on with that shoe. It became very indicative of a specific time frame of fashion, I would say. You start adding all these like studs or buckles or sequins. I just don't think that stays longer in someone's wardrobe than if they just get a flat in one specific color or a specific silhouette, whether that's a heeled flat, which that's interesting now that I think of it, because they're considered flats, but then you add a heel. So then it's called ballet heeled flats. But you know what I mean? Some people like it like a straight up ballerina flat or like a ballerina kitten heeled one. Because I think all trends do. We all know that they're cyclical, but they're very specific on how they come back, and either they're modernized or is it can you tell that English is my second language? Because sometimes I'm like, what am I saying? And I'm also dyslexic. Yeah, my articulation isn't the best. What I'm trying to state is these will just age to a specific time frame, which there's nothing wrong with that, because I am a nostalgia kid. I love looking back and reminiscing on my previous years, especially being a millennial. So you should listen to me instead of Gen Z because I've been around. That didn't sound right. I mean, like, I've been through this fashion cycle for a long time is what I mean. Ooh, girl, I need coffee. I just think certain brands usually sometimes like really popularize these specific silhouettes when I think at the end of the day they shouldn't have. I think people who were really already interested in it have already been participating in it, but it's just like they really, especially a lot of like fast fashion brands, they dive into maybe even a niche particular item that people are getting into, and they just capitalize on it and like make it so quickly, and you know, it becomes like overbearing. You start seeing it everywhere, and I think that is like the issue that ends up being like why these things end up just kind of aging, or and why they're so multi like aesthetic in one specific piece. Another trend that I feel it's gonna age like milk, the Y2K in general. Sorry, my whatnot girlies, if you're watching this, but I mean, I think there's still like a very big specific like Gen Z's obsession with Y2K, because I get it, y'all. I grew up in the Y2K and I get the fashion sense, but like the Y2K mentality, y'all, let's not bring that back. I was born in 93, so I kind of was a little bit younger when I experienced the 90s, but you know, was a little bit older to experience the 2000s. And I think it's the same thing with like Gen Z with their fixation of Y2K, is because maybe they were born in the 2000s, you know, and they really are like getting into Y2K because it reminds them of their childhood or what they used to see like the millennials wearing during that time, and they like admire to be like them. They were like their role model, you know. Y2K in general is like a very nostalgia thing for Gen Z, and at a certain point Gen Z is just going to slowly start moving away from that, because I think, you know, as you're growing up, you're just exploring different avenues of yourself and exploring different like just decades of fashion. Learn this in film. There's these different formats of how film are made, but I think it's just genre in general. Yeah, so you have the primitive, which is essentially the inception of the idea. You have like classical, which ends up like being like how these tropes are used that you learned from the primitive form. So for example, like you think of the classical tropes of horror film, like a specific kind of POV. You don't really sometimes see the quote unquote horror. You more likely hear it than seeing, like all these specific tropes that end up being placed in like the classical part. The revisionist is like they're trying to revive this kind of genre and adding to a different form. So whether that's kind of doing the opposite of these tropes and like kind of actually playing into these tropes or expanding on them. Think like, for example, like The Shining is an example of the revisionist horror films, because it kind of took the tropes and, you know, did it opposite, filming in a whole like white aesthetic style. And then you have like paradoxical, which is like the parody of these tropes or these like ideas, which again, you're just kind of like making fun of them. And then you can like combine them, is what I was trying to say, is that I think fashion also can go with these realms of what you would call a genre, that they end up being like in a way kind of either staying within the same kind of stages, or they're revised, or and I think a lot of actually like fashion designers also stay in like the paradox, what's it called, paradox, but like they try to do things I guess you would call like outrageous, like would someone actually wear that, cool, as part of an art form that fashion is, but is it fashion note that people will be wearing in their everyday life? Probably not. All of these trends that I'm talking about kind of somewhat land in between these ideas. Dress over pants, we saw it styled a specific way 2000s. I mean, that famous Ashley Tisdale photo, and now the styling now is very different than it was in the 2000s, but I mean, it's still the same concept. It's kind of been revived. I don't even think a lot of people even do the dress over pants. I think this also is another thing of something you see more online than in real life. I think this just goes more into play about like, this concept of individuality, and you can talk about Erin Goffman, yourself, and all that stuff. There's so many multifaceted like discussions that we can have. Your girl sometimes isn't the best at articulating those ideas, okay? That was the last one that I wanted to talk about. And yeah, let me know what you think of these like quote unquote outdated trends, or trends that will age like leche in 2025. We're just having fun and we're talking about these because I think discussions should be made about these things, because the whole point is to have fun with self-expressing yourself in your everyday life. Too much going on, so we should be able to like somehow make ourselves happy in any way, whether that is through clothing or through, you know, playing the piano or writing, whatever that is for you, y'all, you need to do it. We all need that self-care, okay? Because in this economy, y'all, it's a lot. Let me know your opinions down below. That's why we got these comments, and I just want to hear your thoughts and maybe even what you would think is something that you think would age. Thank you so much for tuning in, and again, I'm always really appreciative that you stay and watch these videos. You can catch me on all my socials. They're Living as Karina, and I'll see you soon with a new video. Bye.